Soy el único que puede darte eso que tanto quieres.
¿El qué?
Tiempo.
Hi, Peyton. I'm Pedro from Cartera, Spain. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm happy to be talking to you. Let's dive right into it. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is the biggest Ant-Man film. The scale is huge, and the quantum realm makes it so different from the first two. So, you've directed every Ant-Man solo film so far. How have you experienced, as a filmmaker, personally, that growth from within? Like, I'm especially interested in knowing, does the pressure get bigger as the scale gets bigger?
It's a great question. I mean, Quantumania is certainly, it is a bigger movie in scope. We explore the quantum realm in a big way, and a big part of directing the movie was creating all those environments and, you know, the people and creatures that live within those environments. In terms of pressure on the movie, there's pressure on every movie. I mean, every movie I've ever made, there's pressure, usually self-imposed pressure, because, you know, this being our third Ant-Man movie, for example, we really wanted to make sure we weren't repeating ourselves. We wanted to kind of take Scott and Hope and Hank and Janet and now Cassie into some very different territory, and hopefully answer some of the questions we set up in the first two movies. The pressure is the same, right? I mean, it's like the pressure is really about providing an experience for the audience that's different and shows them something they haven't seen before, but also with these characters to sort of progress their stories as individual characters, but also as members of this family. And again, probably the biggest thing in this movie is introducing Kang the Conqueror and putting him on a collision course with these heroes.
Well, speaking of Kang and the Kang dynasty, this is a film that kickstarts a new phase. It's the beginning of Phase 5. Did you always know that? And did that change in a way? Did that change in any way what you had envisioned for the film at first? How was the process?
Well, we knew from the beginning that we wanted to introduce a really formidable villain, and it was going to be Kang the Conqueror. So we knew that from the beginning. Mm-hmm. What we didn't know really is that we were going to be kicking off Phase 5 and what that meant. I knew the character of Kang from the comics, so I know he has variants, and it made sense as the storytelling moves into these multiversal stories that he was going to have a big, you know, there were going to be ramifications on the MCU. I think the decision to sort of have us begin Phase 5 happened somewhere probably closely after I showed the director's cut to Marvel. And, you know, Kang is a very, very important character in this movie, obviously. And I think it just felt right to sort of like, okay, this feels like a clear delineation in the storytelling that this guy is important. He's a Nexus being. There are going to be many different versions of him. So that really sort of was exciting to me because it gave a real vitality to this movie.
Almost every Marvel movie is about family in a way or another, and in its many forms. But Ant-Man in particular is about a literal family, three generations, a dynasty, if you want. You touched on this before a little bit, but what opportunity in terms of comedy and emotion and story did having three generations as protagonists bring, and especially now with Cassie being grown up and a part of the adventure and the action?
Yeah, well, you're right. The Ant-Man movies have always been about family, and they've been about sort of, particularly the Scott-Cassie relationship is kind of the emotional spine, and he keeps losing time with his daughter, and his biggest priority in life is to be a good father. But it's also about, you know, Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne and that father-daughter situation. We love the idea of having these kind of mundane family dynamics played out in these extraordinary environments. And in this one in particular, we like the idea of exploring the things that family members might not tell the other family members, these secrets that you can keep. And at the beginning of the movie, everyone's keeping secrets from Scott, right? Hank and Hope have not told Scott that they've been working on this quantum technology with Cassie in the basement. Cassie hasn't told Scott that she's been in jail before. Mm. And most importantly, Janet Van Dyne has not really told them everything about her time in the quantum realm, and that has huge ramifications to these characters.
Yeah. Well, there's sort of like a little heist moment in this film towards the end, which I'm not going to reveal, of course. I thought that was a nice nod to the first one, and maybe a way to keep that essence, because as you get bigger, you you have the risk of losing that small scale essence of the first film. How did you manage to keep that spirit in the quantum realm?
It's a really great question, and I'm glad that you noticed that, because we love the idea of retaining this thing about Scott Lang. The first movie is a heist movie, and even the second movie, which is more of like a search and rescue movie, there's some heist quality to that. And essentially in this movie, Scott has to make this uneasy deal with Kang to pull a version of a heist. It's very important, I think, that we keep the central quality of those characters alive, even as the canvas that we're painting on gets much larger. And I think also, you know, it's not only with the characters, but in this movie, I really wanted to kind of bring to the fore a little bit the other weird Ant-Man power, not just shrinking and growing, but being able to talk to ants, and particularly in this movie, Hank Pym's obsession with ants. And, you know, now that he's older, it's like he's still obsessed with ants. It's still his great passion. And he's kind of written off, and they make fun of him a little bit until the third act, when it really does pay off. We love the idea of bringing the ants back in that way.
That was a really nice touch. I have to wrap it up. I'm out of time. Thank you so much for your time. It was a real pleasure talking to you, Peyton.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
No querrás que ella vea esto.
Teníamos un trato.
Pensabas que podrías ganar.